Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, striking up the live stream as the noon games are coming to a conclusion. And we have a very key 3rd and 20 situation for Georgia Tech with just under 4 minutes to play. Georgia Tech at midfield trails South Florida 42-38, a game which I anticipated was going to be a barn burner. And for a second consecutive play, Taquan Marshall hit as he's thrown, and the ball's intercepted by South Florida. So for a second consecutive play, Taquan Marshall about to throw the ball downfield, hit by the South Florida defense. And the second time, they weren't so lucky. The ball went up in the air, and it was intercepted by South Florida. So the Bulls have the ball at midfield. Black, number 55, with the interception for South Florida. And the Bulls have it. They're up for under 4 minutes to play. Our headliner from noon is probably Duke. Yes, we're going to talk a Duke football. The Blue Devils, for a second consecutive season, lay the hammer down on Northwestern. And we know the Wildcats turned out to be a pretty good team last year at 10-3. Duke beat them in Durham last year, 41-17. And to show that that was not a fluke, and it was a pretty easy upset to target, as I did, Duke wins as a 3-point underdog in Evanston, 21-7, I believe was the final. I was watching that game in the fourth quarter. Northwestern repeatedly, 4 different times, had fourth downs in trying to obviously extend drives in which they either bypassed the punt or the field goal, and Duke stopped them every time. It was a monumental defensive effort out of Duke. They win at 21-7. They're 2-0 on the season. And we also understand that Daniel Jones was knocked out of the game, and their backup, Quentin Harris, the backup quarterback for Duke, had to fill in for Daniel Jones. We don't know the extent of Jones' injury, and we see that Duke is 2-0. They also got roughed up a bit on defense during this game and lost a couple players. We'll obviously know the severity of those injuries later in the week or possibly later today. We will take you up to at least 3:30 here and check out the live chat and see what you guys have for us. Mississippi State with a decisive win against Kansas State on the road, 31-10. Was the last score I saw with a few minutes left in the game. That was my primary focus, was Mississippi State, Kansas State. And then once Mississippi State took control, and it was a 2-score game for most of the game, and the way the Bulldogs were playing and the way the Wildcats were showing that they could not threaten on offense, that showed me that Mississippi State was in control. Their defensive front with Montez Sweat, Jerry Green, Jeffrey Simmons, dominant in this game against Kansas State. They gave up a little bit of yardage between the 20s. I'm guessing that Skylar Thompson threw for about 175 to 200 yards. Alex Barnes, the K-State running back, had a couple nice runs, but generally no explosive plays from Kansas State as Mississippi State, as expected. This is going to be a team to be reckoned with in the SEC. They defeat Kansas State, a good team, not a great team, top 40 team. Mississippi State wins this game. Again, I believe it was 31-10. And for all of us who, during the offseason in setting up Mississippi State football for this year, talked about Nick Fitzgerald, of course, and then Arius Williams as the running back who ran for 1,100 yards last year. Kylan Hill had a nice season last year, but he is the guy that stole Arius Williams' job, and he was powerful today. Kylan Hill, exceptional. Don't have the final stats here. I'll look them up as soon as I check out the live chat. So that's what I'm checking out right now. South Florida with a football. It's a 4th-and-1 situation, 42-38 lead against Georgia Tech at home, 2:56 on the clock. Duke has defeated Northwestern 21-7. Mississippi State takes care of Kansas State in Manhattan as well. Checked out Dorian Thompson-Robinson versus Kyler Murray in Norman. UCLA's hanging in there. It's 21-7. They're not really moving the ball after the first drive of the game in which they went 7 plays for 80 yards, and Georgia Tech has converted going on a 4th down. So get this, the Bulls on a 4th down near the goal line, instead of kicking the field goal to go up 7 points against Georgia Tech with 3 minutes left, what they opted to do was throw a screen on 4th and 1. They converted down to the 5-yard line, and Georgia Tech's in trouble. Tyree McCants for South Florida has 10 catches for 99 yards right now, and South Florida would be pulling off a very, very, very mild upset. But 1st and goal, under 3 minutes to play, up 42-38 and threatening. All right, and Nick Fitzgerald looked pretty good, looked pretty healthy, looked pretty sound. He didn't look good throwing the ball early in the game, but again, he has now thrown a pass with live bullets until the Egg Bowl, since the Egg Bowl last November. And so he was a bit scattershot early, found his rhythm a little bit later, and he's never been a polished quarterback throwing the ball. Nick Fitzgerald's runner first, quarterback second. Georgia Tech definitely in trouble now as South Florida has run it in for a touchdown to lead after the extra point. It will probably be actually Georgia Tech. This is going to be a reviewable play. South Florida did not score in this play. They gave them the touchdown, but the quarterback was down at the half-yard line. So South Florida will have to run another play. This may actually help them in the long run to kill more time. We're at about 2 minutes left to play. Georgia Tech in trouble with South Florida at the half-yard line up 4. Okay, let's check out the live chat and see what you guys have. We'll take you up to South Carolina, Georgia at 3:30. Also, Nebraska, Colorado, Ohio State, Rutgers in play at 3:30. Virginia Tech on top of William and Mary, 31-7. 4 minutes left in the first half. Mike Scott first. Mike, you're first here, and I've never seen your name before. So as I always like to ask, who do you root for? And how long have you been watching Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football? Would love to know that, Mike. But thanks for being the first one to jump on the live stream. And let me know what you guys are thinking. What have you taken in from the noon games? What has struck you as being important? Duke is for real at a certain level. Now we've got a Coastal Division situation in which Miami looked like garbage opening night. Virginia Tech looked dominant against, yes, Florida State's not Florida State, but Florida State's extremely talented. They have one of the top 10 to 15 rosters in terms of talent in the country, and Virginia Tech squashed them by 21 points. And now we've got Georgia Tech losing against South Florida. Of course, these aren't conference games, but in terms of who looks good and who looks ready to compete in the Coastal, don't forget about Duke. They have now defeated, again, Northwestern on the road, a good football team, a sound football team, a top 40 football team. Beat them by 2 scores, 21-7. That Duke defense really showed up, although Northwestern hindered by the Clayton Thorson injury situation in which he's still not taking all the snaps. So TJ Green, his backup, a junior limited player, son of Trent Green, as we talked about last weekend, playing some meaningful snaps and not playing them well, unfortunately. He threw a costly interception, 2 interceptions, I believe. I'll check the stats. I saw 2 interceptions out of Northwestern throwing the ball downfield. I know TJ Green was responsible for 1. I believe he threw the second one on the next series, and he just didn't look good. And them not playing Clayton Thorson every play at Northwestern definitely hurts. But for Duke to stop Jeremy Larkin to the point that they only score 1 touchdown means something there. How about the other story from noon, the noon Eastern time games? Houston all over Arizona and Khalil Tate. Tate and Sumlin go to 0-2. They at last, that I saw, had a big goose egg on the scoreboard. Can you imagine Kevin Sumlin, the passing guru, and Khalil Tate with all his talent, and Arizona with J.J. Taylor and the other weapons they have on offense, shut down to nothing by a Houston team that gave up 27 points to Rice last week. Arizona looks like I need to come out with a bottom 10 team. Go with a bottom 10 Mark Rogers TV selections for every week, and Arizona would be on the floor. Okay, let's give it a look. All right. Mike, great channel. Thank you. Appreciate that. And again, Mike, if you have time and you hear my response here, let us know who you root for if you'd like. All right. K-State is downgraded this year. It certainly looks that way, although we've seen K-State perform as such on the road at Vandy, losing 14-7 to a team that then went 1-7 in the SEC last year. Then K-State rallied. They were a factor in the Big 12, not for the championship, but they were a force to be reckoned with, going 5-4, 8-5 with a bowl win last year against UCLA, winning a bowl game the previous season after losing some questionable games against questionable opponents. So let's not write off K-State as a bad team. But yeah, they're not a Big 12 championship contender. I would be surprised mildly if that happened. Clemson alum 98, Georgia Tech, yes, about to lose. They're down 49-38. There's only a minute 50 left in the game. And of course, we know the Yellow Jackets' issue with passing the ball down the field in this situation. Jason Hughes, hey, Mark, what time does Miami play? I believe that's 6 o'clock Eastern. I want to keep an eye on them to see if they can rebound after the LSU game. If Miami does not rebound today against Savannah State, then we have some serious issues. Yeah, my glasses are crooked. They're old glasses, and they are just really beat up. Yes, 6 o'clock Eastern. Check out Alonso1219's channel after the game. He's going to do a live stream, and I believe I'll also have him on here to talk some Miami football, not because the game matters, but because you guys want to hear us talk Miami football. So we will for a few minutes, but I'm going to keep my eye, of course, on the games and provide the instant analysis as Georgia Tech's inside the 40, and they only have a minute 34 on the clock. Mike Scott, a Michigan defense has been good for the last few years. Miami plays Savannah State. Yeah. Savage Dogs, Miami playing Savannah State. Clemson alum. You never asked who I root for. Clemson alum, I just had a feeling. I just had that feeling that you were a big Western Michigan fan. I almost just felt the vibe. Western Michigan, Clemson alum 98, Western Michigan fan. So I just went with it. You were the one person that I didn't ask who you rooted for just because I had that feel. Clemson alum 98 thinks Pitt covers. Check out my prediction video for my selection on Pitt Penn State at 26 games. And against the spread, I'm off to a pretty good start with these noon games here. Took South Florida and 3.5 points in this one. Mississippi State, not so much because I liked Kansas State with these 7 points, although I thought it was going to be about 9. Didn't matter. Anyway. All right. We got Donnie Young, another newcomer to Mark Rogers TV, potentially. Some of you just watch and don't comment. But Donnie, let us know how long you've been watching the channel. This is Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We bring you analysis, discussion, debate across the country, the Power Five in particular. And we bring you video analysis each and every day on the game that you love, that we love. Even in the middle of May, we're talking college football all the time, ratings, rankings, and we do up the discussion like no one else. All right, Taquan Marshall just about to get sacked. He does at the 40-yard line. It's 4th and about 15 for Georgia Tech. Last chance here against the Bulls. All right. That's who we've got on the line pretty much right now. So if you'd like to chat some college football and anything that's happened in the noon games, then give me a call at 860-325-3687. Last chance for Georgia Tech. And they convert the 4th and 13, and they still have life. 860-325-3687. If you've got anything, I am going to take this at least until the 3:30 kickoffs, which typically kick at about 3:38. So we've got about 12 or 13 minutes. Maybe I'll go into the South Carolina-Georgia game and Nebraska-Colorado. So at 3:30 here, it's going to be Georgia-South Carolina for me, number one. My secondary monitor is going to be Nebraska-Colorado. Interested to see Scott Frost and company in their debut. Should have been week 2. And then third, just to see the Buckeyes play against Rutgers. Don't know of any other 3:30 games out there. Then at 5 o'clock, Iowa State. I like that one. Mike says Kevin Sumlin is suffocating Khalil Tate, making him throw, not running much. That will change. Let's also consider last 3 games of last season in which Khalil Tate ran for something in the range of 58, 32, and 28 yards. He did not run the ball well, not effectively the last 3 games of the season. Don't think that had much to do with him. Not even the defensive prowess of the last 3 teams he played, which were Oregon, Arizona State, and Purdue. Purdue, a good defensive team last year. Oregon, a much improved defensive team with a lot of skilled, dynamic athletes on that side of the ball with Jalen Jelks and Troy Dye, but not a good defense. And Arizona State, certainly not a good defense last year, but they shut down Khalil Tate running. They made him throw. I'm guessing that's what Houston did. I didn't see Arizona BYU. I saw about 3 plays last weekend. I saw the numbers, but again, Khalil Tate did not run wild against the Cougars last week. Georgia Tech's down to the 12-yard line against South Florida. 32 seconds left to play, so they're going to have to score quickly, get the onside kick, and they would be down still. Go for the 2-point conversion, so you make it a 3-point game at 49-46, scoring the touchdown here, 2-point conversion, onside kick, kick a field goal, tie the game. That's the hope for Georgia Tech at 3rd and 2 inside the 15-yard line. All right. What else did I jot down from the noon games? Yeah, the Mississippi State defensive front was dominant against Kansas State. Kylan Hill, a very tough bruising runner, just lowered the boom a number of times on K-State. We had Rodney Anderson leave the game at the end of the first quarter at Oklahoma. I don't know if he's returned. He was holding his knee at the time. Had a lot of Arizona fans during the offseason, and especially once I made my prediction for Arizona, as I take a phone call here. Thought I was undervaluing Arizona at 7-5. Hey, it's Mark Rogers, voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, this is Brian watching you live on YouTube.
Brian, what's going on?
My man, hey, I'm just calling real quick. I want to know you're getting ready to hit the 3:30 mark there. I was wanting to check in if you have heard anything about the Michigan transfer, Jeff George, who recently transferred to Pitt. I just haven't heard anything.
Sure.
And I'll let you go, my man.
I got to tell you, I've heard nothing about it. I know who exactly you're talking about. I don't have any news about that. I don't. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were off the line. My apologies. My apologies, Ryan. I thought you were off the line. I thought you had asked your question and hung up. We can certainly look into that. We've got a couple specific Michigan contacts in Michigan podcast with Steve Dace and also James Yoder that would know what's going on there with Jeff George. Jeff George. Let me jot that down and see what we can find out about that. We're hearing that South Florida is 6-1 in its last 5 games, 7 games against the Power 5. That would be this game. South Florida, that would be Illinois last year. So that counts. Emmanuel Moreno, Arizona and UCLA look terrible. Kentucky and Florida, interesting. SEC West is loaded. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Arizona. Not to score points first against BYU, 20 points in that game, and nothing today against Houston. Nothing in a college football game in 2018 against not Alabama, against Houston. And I know it's Ed Oliver, and I know that they have other talented players up front. But my goodness, that's what it was today for Arizona. Let's check out the numbers here. Let's go to Arizona Houston and see how deplorable this actually was. Arizona and Houston. Here we go. Let's see what we've got. Right now it's 38-18, so Arizona's finally gotten on the board with 18 points in the second half. It was 38-0, 38-18, but with Houston with the ball and 4:15 left in the game, that's that. Khalil Tate, 24 for 45, 341, 2 interceptions. So what that shows us is, yeah, he's probably thrown it underneath a ton. He has produced 341 yards passing, and they've scored the 2 meaningless touchdowns. J.J. Taylor, 18 carries for 54 yards is not good. Darius Smith, 11 for 51 is, with a 14-yard run for a touchdown. But all this, again, was accomplished after they got down 38-0. Khalil Tate, 7 carries, 8 yards. So this is going to be now a 5th consecutive week in which Khalil Tate has not been able to damage a defense running the ball. So a coach would have to break that down for us, or somebody that really follows Arizona football, because I saw the bowl game against Purdue. I did not see the other 2 games in which he didn't rush for much yardage against Arizona State and Oregon last year. And I didn't see these 2 games against, I actually DVR'd the Houston-Arizona game while I watched the other games, but I do not think I'm going to be going back to see any of that. Maybe I'll watch the first couple drives to see how ineffective Kevin Sumlin's offense is, and possibly have some answers why. On the Houston side, De'Ara King, a guy that we interviewed at American Conference Media Days a few weeks ago, 17 of 34 for 246 and 4 touchdowns and no picks. Quentin Dormady, yes, lost track of him. The former Tennessee quarterback came into the game for 2 for 5. Terrence Williams, 12 carries, 65 yards for Houston. Okay, receiving for Houston, they spread it all over the place. Romello Booker had 2 catches for 76 yards, including a 52-yard touchdown. Keith Corbin, 3 for 44 and a touchdown. Yeah. De'Ara King threw 4 touchdown passes to 4 different receivers. So this is what you consider effective passing versus ineffective passing. Khalil Tate threw more completions and had a slightly better completion percentage, but threw 2 interceptions. So he killed 2 drives, and who knows where he gave the ball to Houston in those 2 drives. De'Ara King, on the other hand, only completed 50% of his passes, but for a ton of yardage per pass completion, 4 touchdowns, no picks. So no turnovers, completed drives with touchdowns. And Houston has dominated this game. There's less than 3 minutes left, and it's 38-18. They have 542 yards of total offense to 483 for Arizona. So again, statistically, it's not been a dominant Houston effort, but Arizona has scored their points when it didn't matter, and they have turned the ball over, and Houston is not. So we've got Nebraska and Colorado set to kick off. The manual, no changing predictions. You've made your prediction. Are you going to make your prediction, adjust that throughout the season, and then once the Big 12 championship game's over, you can adjust your prediction to whoever won the game? Is that how it works? I picked Texas. I'm going with Texas. Might change my Big 12 pick from West Virginia to Oklahoma. Yeah, they look mean. Did we expect anything else? Yeah, Houston up now 45-18. All right, we got Colorado kicking to Nebraska. I don't know if you guys want to hang on here. I may catch a few plays and we'll watch a few series here with Georgia, South Carolina, and Colorado, Nebraska. And let me put this on DVR. Colorado, Nebraska, and switch to Georgia, South Carolina. Maybe Thomas, forgive me. We're switching to Georgia, South Carolina. They'll probably kick in just a minute. Yeah, they're still coming out onto the field. So we'll switch back to Nebraska, Colorado, and see what Nebraska has on its first ever series with Scott Frost at the helm. So Nebraska comes out at the 25-yard line. Again, this brings back all sorts of memories of Big 12 years gone by, right? 62-36, day after Thanksgiving, 2001 in particular. They're in the spread, and they give it up the gut and get a nice little gain on first down, 6 yards. And that's a number 25, Bell, with the first carry for the Huskers under Scott Frost. So this could be a big deal. This could be the first ever. This is the launch of the Scott Frost era. And we'll see over the next few years if this meets expectations. Adrian Martinez right up the middle for the big gainer. And this is the kid that everyone has wanted to see in a Husker Nation. And Nebraska gets the quick first down as the Red Sea opens up the middle for the big gainer out to midfield already. So 24 yards on 2 plays. They throw it out in the flat, and they pick up 8 yards. So it's that easy against the Colorado defense through 3 plays. I can't wait to scout this Nebraska team. So I'm going to put this on DVR once again. I do have it on DVR, and Georgia, South Carolina is my focus. But Nebraska and Colorado here. And we've got a first down for the Huskers as they pick up a yard. Bell gets the call again. So Clemson alum 98 tells us that Georgia deferred. They'll take defense. Clemson alum 98, I did not pick a Georgia to cover. I've got South Carolina plus 10. I've got the Bulldogs to win the game. I'd like to see Nebraska snap the ball one more time before we go to the other game. Martinez on the outside. Duked a couple guys. Boom. He's got the ball inside the 30, but he did fumble after the play. No, Nebraska got it back. They're inside the 30. So basically, the defensive end crashed, but he crashed too hard, and Martinez ran right around him. So a more talented defense and defensive end might have made the play in the backfield. So Martinez didn't necessarily make the best play, but he relied on his athleticism to get around the defensive end. Bell gets the carry again. He's the only back that's gotten the ball for Nebraska 4 times, and he picks up 3. So Nebraska in good shape, moving the ball, looking good on offense. Georgia, South Carolina. Are the Gamecocks ready for this one? Well, they're out on the field. Deebo Samuel. And they've got the football to start. So I believe I will let you guys enjoy Georgia, South Carolina. Maybe we take in a series here. Let's see what Jake Bentley and company have. If Jake Bentley throws up those numbers against Georgia today, then they are in business. 227, 4 touchdowns, no picks, 22 of 29 against Coastal Carolina. At the 25, shotgun, 3 wides to the left. Bentley dumps it down. It's got 8 yards. Crosby with a catch. 2nd and 2. They're moving quickly. No backs in the backfield on 2nd and 2. And that one was broken up. Good defense there. DeAndre Baker called out by Deebo Samuel this week as not necessarily knowing who he was. So he wasn't called out by Deebo Samuel. Actually, a reporter set him up, and Deebo Samuel said, I have no idea who you're talking about. 3rd and 2. Fortunately, none of this matters now. They're playing football. Oh, man, Jake Bentley, he had... Well, it's not going to matter because there was pass interference called. So Bentley had a wide open receiver at the sticks for a easy first down. He went deep, and we've got a flag on Georgia. Pass interference down the field. Well, he was under pressure. He was under pressure, under a lot of pressure. And that was a senseless pass interference play by DeAndre Baker because, and yeah, that was a bad call. That was also a bad call. So Bentley had a pass rusher right in his gut as he threw it. So he was just hoping as he delivered that. And DeAndre Baker was riding the wide receiver out of bounds. So that was a good play by Baker, but he gets flagged. And the officials through the first couple of weeks, and I rarely get on the officials. The rule book has put them in a bad place with targeting and other personal foul plays on the quarterback, in particular in the pocket. Whoa, that could have been picked. And also, they have just been schooled to be too sensitive. Yeah, I don't want to see receivers get interfered with. Call it. But that was ticky-tack. And that was a bad pass by Jake Bentley. He fired it way too hard and behind him. That would have been a nice little 5 or 6 yard gain at the minimum. 2nd and 10 at the 47. Oh, we got a pick. DeAndre Baker. And I think Deebo Samuel may have heard of DeAndre Baker right now. Woo-wee. All right. So Jake Bentley throws a bad pass over the middle, but that falls incomplete. And then he throws a good pass, and Rico Dowdle can't handle it. We've got a little fisticuffs there, a little scrum that I'm sure DeAndre Baker's letting the Gamecocks know that he's around and reminding them of his name. Pick 6. And there you go. South Carolina is going to get the ball back and have to reset the offense. They had moved it out to the midfield. They were in good shape thanks to the penalty. But Baker brings it back. Oh, boy. We have another one of these stupid plays. This is the stupidest thing in history right here. Oh, my goodness. DeAndre Baker dropped the ball at the half-yard line. It doesn't matter now. All right. Enjoy the game. Georgia, South Carolina, Nebraska, Colorado. Your game of choice. Ohio State teeing up against a Rutgers in Big Ten play. And we will be back here sometime in the 7:15 range to set us up for final drives and any drama in the 3:30 kickoffs. And then we'll set you up for primetime. We appreciate the support, and we will see you guys very soon.